where are you going and bonding. I have gone through this, my father has gone through this, my grandfather has gone through this. So there is a pattern which I think the younger generation is expecting the young men to break away from.
What is that doing to probably an older generation of men for whom this is still quite uncomfortable?
As human beings, we are born whole and complete. But then for the rest of our life, we experience barriers in experiencing ourselves as whole and complete.
So the men, what is the information they're grappling with or struggling with? Because the other elephant in the room that we'll come to is this whole, are the men lonely? Across workplaces globally, we're seeing a growing conversation about men at work today around loneliness, identity, emotional health, and what masculinity looks like in a world where work, relationships, and leadership are all changing and changing fast. Much of this has been brought into sharper focus by recent research and writing, including one of our favorites, Professor Scott Galloway's work on the quiet crisis facing men and boys, especially around belonging and connection. To explore this, I'm joined by two guests whose work intersects beautifully around how men experience modern work, both externally and internally. Srini Ramaswamy works closely with leaders and organizations and is also the founder of the Men's Circle, a space where men come together to talk honestly about pressure, relationships, identity, and emotional well being. Through his work, Srini has a ringside view into what men are struggling with today and what support actually looks like when it's done well. Joining him is Nikhil Damle, a friend and fellow coach who works at the intersection of mindset, behavior, change, and mental fitness, drawing from NLP and coaching frameworks. Nikhil spends his time helping professionals understand their internal narratives, the stories they tell themselves about success, strength, failure, and self worth, and how those stories shape how they show up at work and in life. Together, we're exploring questions that don't get talked about that often and don't get talked about enough. What does it mean to be a man at work today? Why are so many men feeling isolated even when they appear successful? And what would healthier masculinity, leadership, and workplace culture actually look like for men and for everyone around them? Let's get into it. Welcome to Small Talk Work Play Build. I'm Subha Chandrasekharan, leadership and career growth coach.
And I'm Hasita, brand consultant and co founder at Motley Group.
Welcome, Srini and Nikhil. Thank you so much for joining us today
Thanks for
to
having
what
us.
promises to be a very, very interesting conversation for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to be here.
So before we jump right into what we really want to talk about, maybe Srini, if you can take us through your journey to what really brings you here today, to the place where you're at, and with Men's Circle being such a large part of it.
It's so funny that at 47, I'm not here. Feels like I'm not here to do a podcast. I feels like I'm here to do a reflection of my life journey. It's so funny that when I was coming here and I was reflecting,
Mm.
um, I was thinking that Men's Circle India did not start in 2025.
Mm.
It started way back in 90s when I was in school, um, at a muddy playground in Jaipur.
Hmm.
Mm.
When I was growing up, I saw that while my mother was very strong woman, my father was a quiet person who was helping her with the chores and
Okay.
was challenging the patriarchy
In
back
the
then.
90s.
Yes, in
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah.
He would sort of quietly not complain about, oh, what would people think?
Mm.
What would my family think? What would neighbors think?
Mm.
So I grew up looking at the roles which were equal.
Mm.
Now, contrast to that, when I stepped outside of my house, I got bullied.
Hmm.
I got beaten up. I got name called. The other aspect that happened was gendered career. Now you would ask why. In my graduation period, because I was involved in a lot of sports and I took to professional painting and photography, and so I was in the creative space. So I wanted to learn about human behavior, people, psychology. So I said I'll pick up human resources in my MBA. And my schoolmates were quickly like, "Are you sure? Are you a man? HR is for women."
For women, yeah. We love people.
Yes. And you don't want to do a desk job. You want to pick up a career like sales, marketing, IT, supply chain. I said, no, I would want to study human resources, though I was the only guy in my entire batch who studied human resources. That is when in 2018, I started a company called Pride Circle because I was focusing on the inclusion of LGBT people. Because again, in my school days, when I was studying, one of my classmates came out to me as gay. So for me, it was very evident that as an ally, a straight person, what I can do to take this conversation forward. And through the course of time, working on gender, disability, LGBT, returning mothers, and etc., I realized that there is somebody, a community, which is silently in sitting in the cage of traditional masculinity, men. So if you want men to play a role of an ally, to contribute to the society, you have to let them come out of the war that they go through inside. And I was going through my own journey at that time. So I decided that, maybe this is a space I want to create for men to accept vulnerability, authenticity, challenge masculinity. And early this year, I said, okay, my journey and all that I went through, this was a time that I look at my own lived experiences in reality and bring it to fore, and setting up the Men's Circle India organization early this year, and it's been 8 months.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, and it's very interesting the messaging that we pick up, right? And I think that's our coach's hat. I'm also the daughter of an ex banker,
Hmm.
and sometimes it feels like their little way of breaking out is by supporting us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can't do it themselves.
Correct.
And it's quite interesting that you say your father quietly rebelled, right, and did stuff that was probably in the 90s not expected for the working man to do. And even more unique, because I've been in these kind of banking circles as a child, right? There are very stereotypical roles you have to play.
Correct.
The woman is typically the homemaker, the spouse is the banker, and everybody,
Correct.
there's a ladies club that she has to go to, like it or
Correct.
not. And
Correct.
there are other things, so
Correct.
it's that's quite I think a lot of messaging that you've picked up, that it's okay to push back against the labels and the boxes that others are trying to put you in, right? and
Yeah.
and we will come more to Men's Circle. Nikhil, we both are ex-bankers,
Yes.
but we
Although
now
although I like to say I was a non-banker in a bank and a non-technologist in a technology division. Somehow we did through.
yeah. But today you are, one of the foremost NLP coaches and trainers
Yes.
in India. How did that journey evolve?
uh, I think that let me sort of put it this way, that sensibility probably came from my mother.
Mm.
When I was listening to him, I was like, oh my god, how many things Jaipur is common. Mom being school teacher is common. So many things are common. But I think the sensibility kind of came from my mom. Because it used to be interesting when we would be in the market somewhere, or later in malls, and suddenly from somewhere parents and children would come, and then we would kind of, okay, let's let her have her space. And so that sensibility kind of probably seeped in, creeped in, you can say that. It's interesting when you're doing work which involves shaping people.
Mm.
And at that time I didn't know
Yeah.
what does it mean in terms of a job and a career.
Yeah.
But that kind of a sensibility was there, that okay, it could be the maid in the house or the guy who sweeps the building, but you've got to treat them in a certain way. And me and my younger brother, so two boys, and she would always tell us that you are the boys and you are the girls. So there's no, like, food is done, so take turns. You'll wash the dishes and you'll put the plates on the table, or we had our own turns of doing different things. So I think in that sensibility, kind of, growing up, some probably inkling was there. And that inkling got satisfied to a certain extent when I started working at Morgan Stanley, which was interestingly, we can look at it from outside and say it's a multinational, and
It's an investment
they'll
bank.
suck the
And
blood out of
yeah.
you and all that. But my first brush of it was, I was on a Saturday, because when you join, you have these compliance trainings and everything to finish. So I said, okay, let me put in extra time, finish those. And one of the persons who had come to set it up was a lady, and she happened to be in office because she didn't have anything to do, hotel. So she said, when you're at work, there's you're not going to do anything which is on your personal time. But today is a Saturday, so you're not supposed to be here. So come here on Monday morning early if you want, but on your personal time you don't do work. That was a very interesting message, and in a way then it put me in the direction of, cool, then I mean I can just go with this is what has been said at the beginning of my career. And so it allowed me to go and explore different things that I liked, one of which was working with people then. And at that time my mom had gone, and she was part of a school where there were 5 schools. So the founder of the schools had sent all the principals and vice principals to a program at that time called Landmark Forum, which is still there. And when she came back and said, these are the things that happened and this is how people's lives changed, I thought, whoever that person is who you're talking about, who makes all these changes happen, I think that's what I want to be. And then I actually actively volunteered with them for several years in pretty serious roles as well, while working in Morgan Stanley. And at that point of time, probably I was not yet that mature or whatever, very green. So I took a break from that, but it kind of came back again in 2018 when slightly more senior roles, I was starting to get involved again in people development work, a lot of diversity and inclusion work as well. And I felt this portion, when I do it, it doesn't feel like work.
That's
The
very
rest of it
interesting.
is, I can figure it out. It's not very difficult, but this portion never feels like work. And so then consciously I thought, what if that can become 100%? Right now it's 15-20%. So 2018, I think some chain of thought started. Then I consulted a friend who knows me very well, and he said, your sensibility, I think, yeah, this kind of a thing will make
work,
sense.
yeah.
And so then 2 years I kind of put in, COVID in a way helped, because you have to just wake up at 8:30 and comb your hair, wear a t-shirt, and think
You're on a
people
call.
think you're on a video call, so that's ready, right? Whether you're in a pajama or a shorts, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But it allowed me to sort of maximize that time. But it's also, what it has done is it's brought me a very wide amount of exposure to different range of people, society, strata, whether it is now even in corporates, I think there's different grades at which people are, different journeys, at which
Correct.
they are in their career. And in a sense, I think, I remember something that Seinfeld says. He says, well, people, what to do with them? They are people. But I really like to look at it as, then how do we bring excellence in a small way on an everyday basis in person's life, right? It need not be climbing Mount Everest or anything like that. So what can shape the experience of a person every day? And then it also, another interesting thing for me is, when he spoke of men's circle, in that initial transition period, I found something called men's growth cruise.
Okay.
So there was a UK coach, and I just happened to be at that time looking for people who are 3 years ahead in this journey. Like, they've quit some time back. Let me talk to them, and found out. So I stumbled upon him. And then he had a nice tagline. He said, imagine a group of men and there is no beer and there is no sports game going on. Then what would be the kind of conversations? So it piqued my interest. I got in touch with him, and he said, this is just conversations about how do we grow and what are the common things that plague us. And it was an interesting format where he would send us 10 questions in advance. Once a week for 2 hours, we would meet, and he would say, pick what question you want to start with, and we'll just explore what everyone wants to say. And no one is offering any suggestion or anything, but it just kind of gets over there. So it was refreshing to see. I think the age range in that was 34 was the youngest, 58 was the oldest. I was somewhere in between. But still within that age range, there were like commonality, and people, yeah, even I go through that, or somebody would say, I have been through that. So it was kind of interesting to see that this kind of a gathering is happening and those kind of conversations are going on. So it kind of, like you say, it must have been brewing for some time, but just that it kind of then needs a platform or a conversation to happen where those things can then start coming to the surface. And I think if those things don't come to the surface, then I think the word that we can use is, you know, well-being is not going to be there. Because it's when things are under the carpet, under the surface, but you can see that there's something simmering, but there's no room to channelize it out. Then there's going to
That's
be
the
trouble.
worst time,
Yeah.
actually, in
Yeah.
many ways. Yeah. Also, the act of sharing and just sitting here and having this conversation for the last few minutes, it already, I think there's beauty in the sharing, because then you realize you're not uniquely unfortunate in any way, right? Like there are other people who share in
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
experiences, have had similar trajectories,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of resonance with growing up and hearing a bunch of different narratives.
Yeah.
Both of us daughters, raised with a very similar but opposite story, that you are the daughters but you're also the sons,
Right.
and we've really taken it to heart in
Yes.
big ways, and it has shaped the course of our lives in very beautiful, ways, which we sometimes probably don't acknowledge as
Correct.
much as we should. um, in terms of that context that we are giving our children, right? Because I think I'm raising a child, and so is she, and we know they are picking up so much. Like they're almost like sponges, hearing so much, without necessarily today the filter or the time needed for them to develop discernment. And one of the questions that came up as we were preparing for this conversation is a lot of mothers of young sons, or raising male children in the age group of around 11 to 15, asking what are they even hearing today? What is it that my sons are hearing today, which I may not be privy to, and I'm no longer the universe of their belonging.
Correct.
There is so much happening in society. Are they hearing good things? Are they hearing bad things? What is happening? Can you give us some perspective on what you
Sure.
see happening in that space?
And Srini, just to add before you, like, what he mentioned, that a tagline of no, we're not going to talk about beer, we're not going to talk about sports, which means that there is so much of boxing and labeling, right? That
Yes.
to even start this conversation, you have to find a group which is willing to talk about anything and everything, because otherwise you're the outsider and you're the one who they can make fun of and say, oh, how do you not like sports, or how do you not like this, or and you were talking about how you had a creative bend and you liked sports, but that still kept you vulnerable and open to why do you like one more than the other, perhaps, etc. But yeah, back to a question, like, what are boys hearing today? What do they need to hear?
You also go through a peer pressure as a boy, that oh, my friend's father is like that, why can't my father be like this? Or I have a great faculty at school, a male teacher, why can't I? So there it becomes into the comparison mode. um, Also, if you look at the men traditionally, are the silent. I have gone through this, my father has gone through this, my grandfather has gone through this. So there is a pattern, which I think the younger generation is expecting the young men to break away from. And that's where the question comes in, saying that where are you going and bonding? Because the boys are going to look at you. If they are not able to find that vulnerability in you, they are not going to be able to have that honest conversation that, look, I like a girl, or I like a boy, or maybe I don't want to do this, or because you're telling me that I should pursue this career, or I should pick up the studies, maybe I don't want to do anything. I want to be a horse jockey, I want to be taking any unconventional career. Am I allowed to talk about it at home?
Am I permitted to be different? Is
Yes.
there? Yeah.
So that's what I'm hearing.
Mm.
Like in these conversations that I have in the men's circle every month, when we go through that reflection, pause, share out, a lot of men who are typically 45 plus, they've said that, how I wish I knew about this.
Yeah.
I would not have put a pressure on my son.
Yeah.
3 sessions later, the same man came and said that I took my son out. We went on the bicycle ride, and I was quiet and I let him speak. Because till that time, I was talking, beta, do this, try this, why you're not doing this. Then I asked him, why can't you tell me what you're learning? what you boys in the group talk. He said, I moved away from preaching to listening. That's when I started realizing that my son was opening up. This is an example, one of the many things that I've heard
Yeah.
in the circles, and men ended up crying.
Understand. Yeah.
The fact that the realization that it is not about what they're giving to their son, the realization that wish my dad had done that to me.
Yeah.
What they missed out on.
Yes, you're gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A simple hug by a dad is more than anything else in the world. Men don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A man will never hug another man. It's a physical intimacy thing.
Yeah.
So you are good with handshakes.
Yeah.
Or even if you are, the hugs will happen when you have grown up together in school.
Yeah.
I remembered a fantastic ad, the Raymond, the complete man. This was in 90s. To Raymond, the complete man he was performing at work. He would come home, help the wife in chores, pet the dog, sit with the kids, eat dinner with them, talk. That was complete man. That ad showed the vulnerable side of a man.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think these are some of the observations and stories I've heard, because men look for third space.
Which is not
Family is a
core.
first space, home is first space, second is workspace, third is a third space, which is, like you said, it's not about beer,
Yeah.
it's not about activity.
Yeah.
Can I go to a space wherein I am not in the pressure?
To perform, essentially, or be a role. of
Yes.
any- Yeah.
A man is typically under pressure to perform from bedroom to boardroom and everything in between.
Yeah.
So that pressure people leave outside the door when they enter our circle, because it's not mandatory, like Nikhil was saying, mandatory to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can take your time,
Yeah.
ready when you are. And that is when the realization that, okay, I have a space wherein I will not be judged. I leave my titles outside. I'm no more competing with one another on titles. How many cars I have, how many properties do I have?
Yeah.
But this is more in terms of a man to man, connecting,
Yeah.
And
you
it
know, of
also
that.
contextualizes vulnerability, I think, that when I'm not providing
Yes.
is when I then get to. So I need that space, because what is a car and a house finally, right? Like it is a social signal that you can provide. My watch is a social signal that I'm doing very well. Like finally, what I'm saying is that first space, as you said, I'm providing for that space. And therefore, unless there is a door beyond which I don't need to, put up any of those facades, is the only place. And I think it also explains vulnerability as something that, and we all say that, right? Like, why can't men be more vulnerable?
Yeah.
Why can't they share more? Why can't they talk more? But I think this helps us understand that that is the context for which it's difficult to come out of that. And
Men is a utility product. The constant question I go through, if I'm not doing this, am I man enough?
Am I useful?
Yeah.
Right? Tomorrow I may not have a job.
Yeah.
I'm a single guy. My parents are aging. Have I achieved enough? Have I done enough? Is society going to accept me? These are constant questions. Am I being a right son? Am I being a right, brother? Am I being a right boss? The constant pressure. Because for men, it's a switch on. There is no off.
yeah.
The only time the men is switch off is between midnight 12 to 2 a.m. And I have heard a lot of men talk about this across age groups, typically 35 plus. 12 midnight to 2 a.m. is their time,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is not about I'm looking at a phone. It's about sitting like this quiet.
Yeah. Not answerable
Where
to
you're
anyone.
not switched
Yes.
on, so to speak. Like,
Interestingly, like a lot of this kind of brings to mind that what has changed. Why do we need these spaces now? Why didn't our fathers need them, or why didn't our grandfathers need them? What has really changed? And I think what you said or alluded to, that it didn't mean that they were well. right? The fact that they,
Yeah.
the wellness concept is something we are
Yeah.
looking at in a positive way now, that
Yeah.
how can we give a person wellness,
Wellness.
or make them feel like they're whole, make them feel like they're okay,
Yeah.
like they're safe. And I think that's the shift, right? Like earlier, whether you liked it or not, this
Yeah.
was your role. You felt stressed, you felt like, I have to keep performing,
Correct.
and there's a role, but tough luck, that's what you've
Correct.
been assigned at birth, and
Correct.
just live it. And if
Correct.
there is going to be no space for you to be vulnerable and
Correct.
free and yourself and all of that, right?
Yeah. I think, one nice statement comes to my mind, which is that, as human beings, we are born whole and complete. But then for the rest of our life, we experience barriers in experiencing ourselves as whole and complete.
That's
Mm.
interesting.
So we
yeah.
walk along as if there are some parts that have fallen off. And
How
but
do we
we are
keep functioning
but we are born
despite?
whole and complete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just the, like you said, messaging or
Yeah.
conditioning, or in some ways the sort of social construct. So if there's a math sum that is not being done right, then if you don't do this, then what will you do later on?
It's
It's like
always the big
suddenly
picture,
Yeah.
right?
the
Yeah,
giant
yeah.
leap in terms of
Yeah.
exponential extrapolation, that
Yeah.
if you don't know multiplication tables
Then you will
in
be
your
such a
life, how will you
failure
provide,
in your
then
yeah,
who's going to
yeah,
give you a job?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that kid is just wondering, how is this related to that, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking of becoming a bus driver.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
that kind of a thing is really seen as, oh, no, please start figuring out, right? Like,
Yeah.
I had a colleague, and we used to speak during COVID, and she had a son, 6th grade. And then she said, now my son wants to be a lawyer, and I don't know what is going to happen. And then I said, okay, good. Now what's wrong with him saying that? No, last year he was saying he wants to be a painter. So I said, okay, theek hai. And then after I left, a few years later, when I spoke with her, I think he was in 8th or 9th grade. So I said, okay, so now how is your son doing? She said, I have just ignored everything and put him in IIT JEE
Oh
preparation
my God.
from 8th grade.
Mm.
Right? So I said, how does it help? Like, it's 4 years later. Well, in some ways it will help in science at
Orienting, I
school
guess.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
12th grade. So in some ways it will help. I don't know how,
Huh.
but at least if he's on this track, then something nice will sort of come out of
Yeah.
it. And nice means ability to get qualified, ability
Yeah.
to sort of
Yeah.
then get and land a good job,
And provide, like,
Yeah.
provide. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
And
also
it keeps coming back to that being the provider, right?
Being the
Like, it's
provider.
that you play the role of, the economic hero of the household.
Correct.
And I think a lot of what we, why this even topic came up, and we've spoken about it. We've been hearing Professor Scott Galloway and what
Right.
is masculinity and
Right.
what is male
Yeah.
leadership today. And one of the things he talks about is that provider role is diminishing.
the
Right?
need for a
The
provider,
need
right?
for the
From
male.
a gender lens,
Yeah,
especially.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Because yes, we have achieved equality on multiple different aspects,
Right.
but culturally we are still the same people, right? We are still the people
Correct.
from the 80s and the 90s, and traditions and norms are not that easy to step
Yeah.
away from.
Correct.
So today, how would you even define masculinity if the provision is taken away from it? Or rather, the provision is now the emotional needs, right? It's no longer the put a roof over my head, or
Yeah.
earn
Yeah.
for me, or make sure I can eat and raise my children, help me, right? It's none of those things, right? It is, how do you become the emotional provider in the relationship? And we've just spoken about how you have to open a door to be vulnerable.
Correct.
And now we are saying perform vulnerability for us, please.
Just to add to that, like, when I left my corporate role, there was like, oh wow, you're being so brave, but it's okay, right? Like, you can take a break. Why? Because I have an earning spouse,
Partner,
Spouse.
right?
right? I
Yeah.
have a male partner who is earning. And so,
Mm.
even if you take a break, I said, I don't intend to take a break. I just intend to do something else.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But for both of you, that must have been a difficult transition, or at least something that you had to have explanations for. That,
Yeah.
you're going from something that is at least seen as high paying, lucrative, what you were
Correct.
raised for, or
Correct.
what you have studied for, to, oh, now I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm on my own, and I
Correct.
have to kind of create that economic security from scratch.
Correct.
Right? how did that? And I know, what I really admired about your journey was, Nikhil, you prepared for it,
Yeah.
right? It was not this overnight kind
Yeah.
of transition like many of us did.
Correct.
But today, many are also forced to do that.
Yeah.
A kind of overnight
Yes.
transition, because that role or that
Does not exist.
that
or-
job doesn't
yeah.
exist, or for many reasons they can't continue in that,
Yeah.
and they have to find a new path.
So two opposing but true questions, I
Yeah.
think, on the same spectrum. One is,
Yeah.
how do you become more emotionally
Yeah.
available
Yeah.
when that is the new need? But
Yeah.
at the same time, also a lot of these, needs are very real as well, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah.
the reason why perhaps in many instances agender one partner can do more or can say, okay, I'm quitting and upping and leaving, which I have done, is because the other one is still bringing the paycheck and making sure that certain basic needs and necessities are taken care of. So what is that expectation even perceived as on both sides? How can you be both things?
And I think when the transition was happening, it was about pre-setting those expectations. That look, okay, I think I remember making that decision on it was like a Wednesday night which spilled over into Thursday 1 a.m. And then yellow notepad, I just wrote down some numbers and I woke up my wife. I said, okay, look at these numbers. Is this making sense to you? If it is like this, then I think we should be
We should
okay.
be
But I
okay.
want you to be okay with it first.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then she said, yeah, I think I'm okay with this. Then if you believe in this, then you can go ahead with it. And I spoke to several mentors just to kind of test that this is what I'm sensing, right? Whatever number wise, logic wise, it doesn't make sense, because I was supposed to leave at the end of 2021, but in February I felt I think this is now the right time. And it didn't feel like that, because great, some now number is ticked, that like people often say, right, oh, something will run on the side and it will become big, and then I think that
Then
is the time
when
when
this equals
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
then you
If
should.
only
yeah,
it
yeah.
worked out so
but
well.
but I
yeah.
think it was like one of the persons told me that, Nikhil, if you are sensing this and if you feel like this is something that you can stand for, then now don't think more about it. Now act on that instinct that you sort of had, that realization or the conviction is there, because that no one else will be able to tell you how you get it.
Yeah.
So when that happened, then it was kind of that validation that, okay, so one is I need to stand my ground, second is I need to stick to my conviction, and then have conversations with people that this is what it's going to be and this is how it's going to transition out. And then I think people were okay with it, right? So I remember my dad for the first few months used to be like, so is there a new client? And
It's a very gentle way of asking, is everything
no,
okay?
that is his way. Earlier it would be like, have you paid the credit card bill? That kind of a thing. But so then I said, look, all these years I was doing a job. So just look at it like this is another job, right? You wouldn't check with me if I've joined a new company that is everything okay in this new. I know
That's
that you're
interesting,
thinking
yeah.
from the money part of it. And then he said, okay, cool, then that's fine. So then onwards, his conversations would be, is everything going fine according to you? Yeah, it's going fine. Cool, then fantastic. Move on. But I think that part is kind of the necessary part, that you have to kind of stand up for yourself first.
Yeah.
And if we start looking at what will you think, and no, first I want to know your opinion, and what if they don't like it, then it's already kind of the moment is gone in a sense. And I think the point on vulnerability now is we've got to be careful that vulnerability, like I was in a course once, and 5-day course, and some sharing was going on. Some people would come for some interventions, and like suddenly a group of ladies said, why aren't the men coming here? Right? And it was just natural, right? The person would say, okay, who feels like coming for this demonstration? Somebody would get up and go. But I think if you start looking at vulnerability as it must be shown, then it's same old.
Yeah, no, I hear you. In fact, I
Yeah.
remember this small group experience where, I mean, the nature of the workshop also was that it, I think, encouraged more women to join. And there was a certain man who'd come by, and he struggled through the day to open up
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons. And finally, when he did, it came out in the form of anger.
Yeah.
Because I think he felt the push
Yeah.
of saying, but 5 people are sharing, and I'm just sitting here and listening, and maybe
Yeah.
I'm not doing enough.
And I think then the other thing that happens is that then you have to be vulnerable this way, not that way,
I hear
right?
you.
Because anger could be a meaningful way to vent.
To
I remember
express. Yeah. Shrini, the men's circle seems so important and relevant, right, in the context of what we're talking about. How do you create that space? How do you make them feel safe? Because I think that's also a job, right? Because in a lot of one-on-one coaching with male leaders, 45 plus typically, after 30-40 minutes suddenly they will say, oh my god, this is the first time I'm actually talking about a lot of this stuff, because they feel they can't say it to
Yeah.
peers and colleagues because there's competition. Family doesn't get it, or they may feel burdened by the information or what I want to share. And so nobody's asked me these questions. I've never said some of these things out loud. So, how do you find that task of getting them to open up and just talk?
Oh, it's not easy.
Hmm.
Why I have to talk about other men? If I'm invited to a space and I have to speak or share, I will not,
Hmm.
because men are taught to be holding the emotions.
Hmm.
It's like I say, the Olympics that goes within you. Uh, for the longer period of time, you can carry that burden. You can take the first podium.
Hmm.
So invariably, we are taught to bear with it.
Yeah.
And thanks to our 70s, 80s movies, our role model Amitabh Bachchan, Mard ko dard nahi hota, be a man. That is conditioned in us so much
Hmm.
that if I cry, if I be vulnerable, I may lose my promotion.
Yeah.
I may be seen as somebody who's not fit to be a boss.
Hmm.
Uh, my family will, my wife will not accept me because I'm a provider
Hmm.
and protector, irrespective. Uh, so, a lot of those questions I carry, the baggage I carry into that conversation. This is like, and I was joking this with somebody, like you're a 365-day Santa Claus. You're carrying that bag. There are no gifts. These are you're not going around to give it to somebody,
Hmm.
but you're carrying that because that box is an expectation somebody gives you, and you keep putting it in that bag,
Yeah.
and you keep carrying that
Yeah.
from the time you are like a teenager.
Hmm.
We talked about what is the expectation. I'll give you an example of North India.
Hmm.
When I was growing up, my neighbor, there was one son and two daughters. The son was given a glass of milk. The girls were given tea.
Hmm.
Why? You may ask. Because in tea, you mix water and
Water.
milk.
Yeah.
My son is a provider. I have to take care of him. He is the karta dharta of family. He has to be in best of health. लड़कियों का क्या है? They will get married and then they go. It would be the responsibility of that guy to take care of her. I have to put my son in a good school. So from that age, beta, be a man. You have to take care of your sisters.
The investment is higher here.
Yes.
So,
So we talk about the investment in terms of, you put the jewelry and etc.
Yeah.
Start saving money for the daughter. You're not saving for the son.
because the sun is the investment.
Son is the
Yeah,
investment.
yeah, I hear
So you put the investment in terms of expectation. So it's an expectation currency that you're putting, and it's not about FD that you can cash in. It's like you're putting that money. So imagine, to your question about a man who's been conditioned at somebody at who's a 40 plus, 30, 35 years of conditioning. It takes 3 sessions to break that mask. And it is, like you said, it is about psychological safety.
Hmm.
The one good thing is that you're coming in a room, there are no women.
Hmm.
Okay. I've got a lot of feedback on that as well. Why can't you let women in the circle? I said, no, I can't. That's why it is called men's circle.
But they're
Yeah,
asking that.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
I have been trolled already on
Uh.
LinkedIn.
Oh, there are those
Oh,
who are
okay,
not
not
in
the
this.
people
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
group.
okay.
Yeah,
That,
so
yeah,
it's
That I
saying
get.
that why
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
not
yeah.
letting.
But yeah,
And
I
hence
think
that the question about,
yeah.
why men's circle,
Yeah.
because you want to let men in that group feel vulnerable. And you have to facilitate that session with utmost respect,
Mm.
care, safety,
Yeah.
ensuring that you don't end up hurting somebody. Like you're talking about the anger, right? So we did one session with college kids, and we said that when you think of mom, what one word comes to you,
Mm.
right? What would that word be?
For the boys?
For
For
when you say,
anyone.
you ask kids saying that
Hmm.
when you think of your mom,
Hmm.
what is the one word that comes to your mind? Love,
Yeah,
love,
probably some
affection.
kind of
Affection,
caring,
yeah,
nurturing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the same, what one word comes to your mind when you think of your dad?
Respect, I
Strict.
think.
Strict.
Anger.
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
So they
yeah.
said my father is always angry. It's angry is not on you. Angry is about the fact that what I'm carrying with me,
yeah.
and I don't have an outlet. To what Nikhil mentioned, right? Like in the movie
Right,
that you
Uh,
go, you're looking at an outlet.
yeah.
right.
You don't have an outlet today. You can't scream at home because you will be vulnerable. You can't scream at work. You'll be vulnerable. You'll show
There'll be a
vulnerability.
complaint.
Yeah.
Complaint saying
Yeah.
that, oh, you're not fit to lead the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So where do I go? The third space.
Hmm.
If I'm doing certain things at home, then you'll be like, oh, uh, tum baap ho.
Hmm.
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 You have to be role model,
Hmm. Just
right?
be
Yes.
somebody.
So you're till the time you're on a deathbed, you're just meeting the
Hmm.
expectations of
Mm.
everyone,
Mm.
Hmm.
right? So the for me, when I look at these men at different age groups, their expectations or their burden varies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A 30 under 35-year-olds have a different burden to carry.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Less of expectation, more of what's my future, how do I
Meeting those
save,
Yeah.
future, yeah.
right? Somebody who's 40 plus, AI is coming.
Yeah.
My kids, I lose my job. How do I take care of my kids? My
Yeah.
wife is not working, right? Because to your point, right, you could take that break.
Correct.
Can man take a break?
Correct. Correct.
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
because society keeps looking at you.
Yeah.
For me, it was easy, to what Nikhil mentioned. For me, it was easy because I had no dependencies because I was single.
Hmm.
So my scenario was very different from his. I
Hmm.
didn't have to go and check on different things. Of course,
Hmm.
I was taking care of my brother's education. I was, being the eldest son, I have to look after my parents and the future and etc. But
I
then I
think the stigma or the questions are still the same.
Same, no? Yeah. Many
no,
No,
decades
you didn't
later.
face it.
Okay.
maybe I would say because of my very forward thinking parents.
Mm.
Huh.
Maybe because of the fact that my parents gave me that scope, like Nikhil was mentioning, that do you have the ecosystem around you who's able to tell you,
Mm.
Hmm.
you know, open your wings and fly?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So I'd never had that
It's
problem.
also the role, right? It's like it's okay because you're anyway, it's not like you have this immediate family to take care of.
At least
So
in the
yeah,
society's
in the
perspective,
society's eyes,
not
it's
that
okay.
you're
You take
not
a chance, you
responsible,
explore,
but
you land on something,
No, so
you
I'll
know?
tell you interestingly.
Huh.
Very young age, I said I'm not looking at society.
Huh.
okay, fair.
Society may think whatever of me. If I'm ever doing something, they may see less of me or more of me or whatever. I want to do what I want to do.
Mm.
Mm.
Like Nikhil had some great friends and
Hmm.
advocates, and he had that space to get those ideas validated or to say that, okay, am I doing the right thing? I did not have anyone.
Which also
Mm.
is unique, I feel.
Exactly.
Men don't ask
Usually
around
have
so
that,
much
yeah.
No,
and
but the
have
men
good
would ask. Men would
conversations.
ask in the close circle.
Hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm sure Nikhil would not have gone to 10 people randomly. Hey, tell me about
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
What do you
Yeah.
fair
think?
enough.
He would
It's
have
about
gone to.
trust.
Yeah.
It's about
Trust.
trust because you're
Mm-hmm.
opening up to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I
Mm.
would go to those people that who would not see me that, oh, he's sort of opening up.
Hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
what happens?
Mm.
How do I manage? So
Mm.
my system was, my brother, my parents, my friends, very close friends, and I went, and then on my own internalization
Hmm.
of the
Mm.
facts that what I wanted to do, what I don't want to do. Like sports is something that runs in the family.
Mm.
My
Mm.
father played for India cricket in
Oh.
Okay.
70s.
Wow.
He's played with Kapil Dev and Sunil Gavaskar, and he played for India.
Hmm.
I took sports because I wanted to play, but not cricket. I took basketball and football. I played for nationals.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
My younger brother has played Division B cricket. My mom has played volleyball in her. So it ran in the family. So my immediate thing was, oh, I don't want to study. I don't want to do anything. I want to be a sports person. Then it came like, okay, where is the funding going to come? You're a middle class family. You have to go through coaching. Who's going to do it? I said, chuck it. Then I said, okay, let me do. My father didn't, bat an lid. He said, okay, you whatever you want to. Then I said, okay, I like to paint, oil and acrylic on canvas. I learned. So I said, I want to be a painter. But then again, there was a cost associated with it, more cost than a football, because here I could just buy a jersey and a shoe, I'm done. Cleats
No,
and
and
running.
can this
And will it
sustain you
Sustain
later?
in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The leagues that we have is today. Back
Yeah.
in the days, there were
No,
no
and
leagues.
as an artist, I mean,
Yeah.
you're at the mercy of.
It's like you're going
Yeah,
forever.
yeah.
I remember there's this lovely movie Karwa, in
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
Dulquer
Dulkar's
and
scenes with his father in flashbacks are so nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, where he's saying that, okay, I think I'm going to be a photographer. So he says, okay, then learn how to play a band and everything, so that then you can give a package deal in a wedding.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
Because the
yeah.
straight, in NLP we call it's a outcome expectation and it's a self-efficacy expectation.
Correct.
Right, that there's never a, okay, you want to be a painter, cool, so let's see how we can work around to helping you be a painter. Let's develop that self-efficacy in you. But it's straight to, does this pay? How many painters do you know
yeah.
who are having a decent life?
Correct.
So the moment that expectation is, and that outcome expectation sometimes from your inner circle is well meaning, because they're looking at it as, we just want, that's their way of saying, look, we
Will you
just
be
want you
okay?
to do well, right? And I think if that gets addressed for your inner circle, they're okay with, because they'll say, we
Yeah.
trust you,
Yeah,
you'll do the right
yeah.
thing, and you'll develop your, it's then how much weightage do you place on what
Yeah.
people are going to look at as external,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is also that performance, when we sort of use this word, it becomes, like he said, it's about never switching off performing. um, but if you sort of for a moment look at an example of a singles tennis player, right, and in the box you'll see there's a nutrition coach,
Yeah, yeah.
4 or 5 other people, support staff, right? They manage this person as if like that's the central thing. Hey, you've done these many laps or these many routines, now this is your cool down time, right? The idea that visible performance can be sort of understood and measured, and therefore you can build in an element, like in sports you can build in an element of downtime. But if you look at desk jobs, if you look at men in business, then it's like an invisible,
performance.
it's like a football match that is going on, and there is no second half, third half. It's just like, just the football match is going on, right? So there's no one blowing the whistle and saying, okay, pause
Now
now.
take a break.
There's no
Yeah.
drinks break happening, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in a sense, that self calibration, I think, has to be developed a little bit, which I think for me it was interesting, because on my parents' side, my both parents were youngest. So me and my younger brother, youngest cousins. So often the age gap was like this, that, "Arey, I don't know what these elder cousins are doing. So chalo now, let me figure out some way of entertaining myself, or keeping myself occupied." But maybe I think that cultivated the idea that there will be alone time, which doesn't need to be loneliness, but can it be solitude? Can it be some creative, hairy brain scheme of, let's just mess up the house with something and clean up before mom comes? But I think, in a sense, without planning for it or without trying for it, maybe it happened. That what are they hearing outside, and what are they coming and telling us? And I think a lot of times now, when I look at my daughter or my son, then my point of reference is, okay, they are being able to discern. Now whatever they are exposed to, I'm okay with that, right?
No, that's a very foundational
Yeah.
value. And also I think we're speaking about ages, right? Like the distinction, and it keeps coming up again and again, that there are men of different ages in this entire equation. Young boys,
Correct.
men who are at the threshold of taking certain
Correct.
bold steps, perhaps, which needs a lot of individual permissions. And then we also have a generation of much older men who've this is the life and this is the tradition and this is the norm. And you've spoken about Amitabh Bachchan, and then of course along came Shah Rukh Khan, and according to a thesis, we are desperately seeking him as well, right? Like, so there is a certain amount of emotional connotation that I think a lot of celebrities and media person do bring it to the table. We can't ignore the impact of movies on the Indian psyche. What is the difference between how a younger generation of men is perhaps being more open to saying this is how I feel? And I think that's a huge statement in and of itself, right? Like
Yeah,
a bunch
yeah.
of women get together, we talk about feelings very easily. In fact, it's probably the first thing we tell each other, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling. And I understand now from, the essence of our conversation that that's not what is allowed to naturally come to a man. How is the younger, smaller but significant universe going about that, specifically men? And what is that doing to probably an older generation of men for whom this is still quite uncomfortable? What is that, even that father son dynamic or that uncle nephew dynamic looking like?
Hmm.
Because they have such different ideas
Yeah.
and perspectives on what it means to
Hmm.
have an emotional landscape.
Srini, I'll just
Sure.
add to that. In your conversations, right, with men, they are also experiencing that the women in their lives are changing or shifting.
Mm,
Right? We are more financially independent.
mm,
We are finding our voice. We are probably saying things that they didn't hear their mothers say. We're asking for things, or demanding our place, our role a lot more than what they may have experienced as a young boy, and what they thought was okay or normal, right? And you also mentioned like your father played with Kapil Dev, etc. Those athletes, when I look back, we didn't know much about who they were off the field.
Mm.
But today, if I know, or I, look to a Virat Kohli, he may be the angry man on the field, but I also know that he's this loving husband who will, blow kisses to his wife. He's a father who takes his daughter for a stroll in London. And so there's this, kind of
Universe of
that,
information about
yeah,
the individual.
information, and
Yeah.
also changing, that the complete man
Hmm.
image kind of coming back, because we have access to who they are on and off the field, and the role models. So the men,
Hmm.
what is the information they're grappling with or struggling with? Because the other elephant in the room that we'll come to is this whole, are the men lonely?
yeah, I think it may sound a bit controversial when I
Hmm.
respond to this. Virat Kohli is a minority
Hmm.
in men.
Hmm.
To what Nikhil was mentioning about a tennis player,
Hmm.
Analogy.
you know, uh, they have an army of people to take care of you
Yeah.
because you're a performance athlete.
Yeah.
Entity.
How many of us have that?
Yeah.
True.
Second, a Virat Kohli's regime of staying fit, how many of men can follow?
Yeah.
You can't.
And perhaps not required.
Not required.
Yeah.
But the fact is that there is a pressure on men
To be that
to
Virat
be
Kohli.
like that
Yeah.
Without
because
the
they want to
support.
be accepted by their girlfriends or wives and etc,
Yeah.
saying that, oh, my husband is also fit,
Uh,
so that there is also a social acceptance. There is also an acceptance by the son when the son takes his dad to the school,
hmm.
and then you say that, look, my daddy strongest. We had that ad, my daddy
Yeah.
strongest.
Yeah.
So the majority of the men are not Virat Kohli. The majority of the men are battling every day the daily chores of doing things.
Hmm.
Can they take a break? If you are privileged ones. That's why Virat Kohli can.
Hmm.
Virat Kohli can walk and stroll in the streets of London, nobody paying attention. But how many of us, honestly, hand on heart, men can?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't. Right? You have to have your own individual discipline to say that, okay, this is my time out, or this is what I want to do, or this is what gives me happiness. Then it comes that my ecosystem, my partner, my parents, my friends, are they adding to that
Hmm.
in helping me becoming that, or they are constantly questioning me for who I am not?
Hmm.
Okay, so that becomes a privilege in a lot of people. Even if you go for men in tier 2, tier 3
Hmm.
cities, this masculinity is like in the DNA.
Hmm.
You cannot challenge.
Expected.
Yeah, you cannot tell them. If you say that, I've received that, are you crazy?
Mm.
My society, my neighbors, my family, your typical look at a Haryana, to a Rajasthan, to a UP, to a Delhi. It's a typical masculine belt. But to your question about men circle and etc.,
Yeah.
one interesting thing that we have found out, that we host circles in multiple cities every month: Delhi, Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai. The highest number of participation by virtue is in Bangalore.
Mm.
In every month, I would have about 20 men.
Mm.
Some are repeat, some are new.
Mm.
The second highest, can you guess which city could be?
Chandigarh.
No, I'm not doing Chandigarh. I'm doing Delhi.
I want to say
Delhi.
Delhi.
I want to say Delhi, but I'm
Why
not.
so Delhi?
Yeah.
So going back to that question that we were pondering earlier, right? I feel like there are cultural contexts where even if you want to change as a man, it's possible that the role model that was ascribed to you, which is your father or your uncle, is actively telling you that that's not how you
Yeah.
live a life. So, in fact, I think there's a lot of bravery in then stepping up and saying, "But I need that space to figure out, is that
Yeah.
true?" And it's a very, very current world thing that we are all questioning those narratives, and it's almost heartening to me to think that the
It
men
could
are as
be
well,
Delhi.
and it could be in
Yeah.
in some of the most masculine, as you put
Yeah.
it, circles in the country
You're
right
very
now.
well informed, I must say. You're very
No, I'm guessing.
perceptive. But you're right. Delhi takes the second spot.
Hmm.
The third is Bombay.
Hmm.
0 from Chennai.
Oh, wow.
I'm not surprised.
Actually, I'm not
I'm not
surprised.
surprised.
So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for us, this was also a social experiment to
Yeah.
Yeah.
see that which cities the men are more. To whole point about
Yeah.
traditional orthodox mindset, masculinity, all plays in
Yeah.
to cities like a Hyderabad and Chennai.
Hmm.
The people who attend in Hyderabad, Chennai are not local natives.
Hmm.
They are migrants,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they are not bound by the expectation that I will step out of the house.
Hmm.
And men don't want to come for circles on virtual.
That's
Oh,
interesting to
okay.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot take these calls from home. I
Ah,
don't
there's no
want my
space.
wife.
Correct. Different
Hmm.
space. Yeah.
Then the men
Makes
said, the
sense.
only place I can do is in my car. You expect me to sit in my car for 2 hours?
So it literally takes the
They
opening of a
want
Because
in
of a
door.
different
person.
physical space. Yeah.
Hmm.
I have got literally emails and calls. When are you doing next? Because we skipped it during Dashera,
Of course.
Diwali time,
Yeah.
because I want that space.
Hmm.
So that is where the change is happening. The cities are Virat Kohli's to a not so Virat Kohli to a somebody who's like traditional, a tier one, tier two, following a certain regime. It's up to you how much and where you can break away.
Hmm.
I take a break, sports guy, right? I know when
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
when to take that break. When those every hour is my timeout, and my team knows about it. My parents know about it. I will lock my computer and get out of my workstation. 15 minutes break, right? It's nothing to do with a tea, coffee, just 15 minutes
Yeah.
break.
Yeah.
How many of us? So that's where I want to intersperse the fact that masculinity or being vulnerable comes with privilege.
Hmm.
You can only demonstrate vulnerability, challenge traditional masculinity. You can challenge to be, open up and share if you're privileged.
I'll
If you're,
just add one more
yeah,
to that. If you have nothing to lose.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to lose, you're not being questioned.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
high societies. Why is that? You see on the movies and etc., they show portray Dil Dhadakne Do, and they are so vulnerable. All of this.
But
Why
the
they are high
economic
moving?
strata itself
Yeah,
is
it's
different in
different.
How
them.
many
Yeah.
of you
Yeah.
can relate to that? I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Firstly, they're on a yacht. So.
You can't, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So they,
Yeah.
but you can relate to a guy in Lapata Ladies who is crying and running because he is not the one who's demonstrating that I'm a man.
Yeah.
I will not cry. I will be a macho,
Yeah.
and everything. He cries. He's running around. First time you're changing the script, saying that a
Yeah.
man can be lost.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that I think that's the beauty of
Yeah.
that story, right? It's talking about someone who's presented with a situation that is unprecedented in every
Correct.
way.
Yeah.
Correct.
Then what do you do? It's
Yeah.
it happens to be about I don't know, misplacing your wife for lack of a
Correct.
better
exactly.
way of
Correct.
putting
But
it.
the other movie that
Yeah.
I really, really sort of found very well made was Key and Ka. I mean, we can debate about, certain aspects of it, but
Yeah.
then the whole norm about a husband becoming a house husband
Yeah.
and wife feeling jealous because husband was getting that platform or a podium to showcase what he was doing, and towards the end she sort of gets so jealous that get out of my house. You reverse the role.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the even the movies are today, or OTT shows are being made to appeal to a certain audience, because that it is driven by the TRP,
Of course.
right?
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of these conversations, there are some beautiful plays,
Yeah.
right? I was recently in one of the events. There was a conversation about fragrance and masculinity,
Okay.
right? So this goes back to the whole idea of Kama Sutra about intimacy, relationship. And there the speakers were talking about there are certain fragrances at certain points in a body that a man or a woman would apply or put on, that sort of evokes the relationship in your life. And that's why back in the days, the woman would have the jasmine oil and all of that. How many of us are investing in that relationship today? Right? So a lot of men today are also, because we spoke about performance,
Yeah.
we also did a study. We also found out that if a man was to ask to go and get yourself checked, because for women, it is very easy for all of you to know that am I going through something because of periods, right? You would know, your body will tell you that
Basic health
there is something that
metrics.
wrong.
Yeah.
Go talk to your gynae or doctors. And men don't have any markers.
Yeah.
So how do men know? So the best way is you go get yourself checked. So we spoke to hundreds of men and etc. So 42% said we will go for a checkup.
Okay.
42. And then the follow-up question was, if there were to be something about prostate cancer or the erection issues, or because these are the topics that we talk about, would you go? It was direct 50%. We will not go,
Okay.
because of the fact that I'm a provider. If something comes up in my health, what happens now?
So I don't
It's
even want to
better.
know.
I don't
I
want to
don't
know
know.
about it.
And
Correct.
That's the reason why a lot of times when you see these men at early 40s or mid 30s, they have a cardiac arrest and etc. They have fantastic gym. Maybe there is some amount of pressure. I'm not stipulate or sort of putting something. I'm just going with the hypothesis that maybe something that was ignored. Maybe a coach told you to not lift so many weights, because when we spoke to the men who come to our circle, there are 6 shadows that they went through. One, your loneliness. A lot of men don't understand the difference between loneliness and being lonely. Men have to be defined and told that one is a choice by virtue that you choose to
To be
stay
alone.
lonely,
Yeah.
and the loneliness is because you don't have anyone to socialize or mingle with.
Correct.
The second that came up was around relationship issues. Whether I'm single, whether I'm married, there is so much of pressure and stress and etc. The third one came, which was focused on financial liability or anxiety, masculinity, work stress, and finally purpose. This purpose was for men who are 50 plus. I've achieved enough. We had a guy who was 58, came, I'm earning well, I've saved enough, my kids are settled, I don't know what I want to do now.
Yeah.
We had one founder who sort of sold his company, and then he's now wondering that what do I do
What
with the
next?
money? Right? So there is these anxious moments that we go through, men across age groups. But do you have a system wherein you can discuss, chat? It does not have to be like in Bangalore. I have over 100 men. So I did an experiment again. I said, okay, next Friday, how many of you are up for drinks? Zero.
Why was that?
because they said we don't want to socialize over drinks, like to your point, right?
Huh.
And these are 40 plus.
Hmm.
They said we want to, hang out, spend some time,
Yeah.
maybe do a bike ride, some activity. So men bond on an activity,
Yes.
right? It's like work and play.
Yeah.
So you
Correct.
bond on that.
Hmm.
So that's where those hobby clubs are important.
Yeah.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of men who want to do mandala.
Yeah.
I know a lot of men who like to do quilling because
Yeah.
you're like, that is a
Completely
sanctuary.
focused
zoned
Yeah.
in.
activity.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, my sanctuary is a painting or a photography or cooking. So these are my sanctuaries. Like that, there are a lot of men who have their own sanctuaries.
Hmm.
So hence the point what you were asking about, how do you create that expectation? Because it's the man who has to decide where I am, how much I can do, whether it can be a Virat Kohli or whether I can be a nobody, still have some
Yeah.
existence.
No, I think the privilege point is really well taken, because uh, at least in my age group and circle, which similar, but it's a lot of the men saying, but if I don't work
Yeah.
the stereotypical
Yes.
job,
Yeah.
uh, I have not built that second line of interest,
Yeah.
because I was told that I should do this really well for
And
as
that
long
would
as
be
I can.
enough. Yeah,
So
that
I
would be the
didn't know
reward.
that I have to also in parallel develop a hobby or develop an interest that would become my purpose. So I neither have purpose nor do I have
Yeah.
another
It
skill or
was
an
never
interest.
encouraged, right?
It was never
Yeah.
encouraged. I was never,
Correct.
I have never thought about
I'll
that.
tell you another social experiment that I did, and I keep doing a lot of these, right? So, especially the men and women, they go on dates.
Hmm.
A lot of women would typically say that I'm a feminist,
Hmm.
I'm an independent woman, I'm a career oriented woman, I can take care of myself. And I did this actually. This is my own one of the. So I said, okay, then I'm happy to support you in your career. I can take care of the house.
Hmm.
The immediate one, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be provider.
Mm-hmm.
You need to protect. I said, but you are independent woman, you are earning, you are capable of doing. Somebody has to manage because I am fully supportive of your career. No, what I earn is my money, what you earn is my money. Right? So the conversation also comes in with the fact that, to your point, that men have to go through the expectation of how many men, again, the privilege,
Yeah.
can leave their jobs in the movie Internship, right? The man leaves his successful career to support his wife. How many men can do that today?
Hmm.
Can proudly say.
Mm-hmm.
How many men have done that? Or how many women are okay for that,
Mm-hmm.
of doing it, right?
Yeah.
How many of the kids are okay to see? Now the
A
current generation
different
is
model, I
very
think.
open
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
that my dad manages and everything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that comes with a pressure. That comes with a pressure that that what is that you're asking for in a marriage?
Hmm.
What are you asking for if you were to get married, or you're seeking a partner? All of that has a beautiful interplay, and we, society, have put in those norms and
Yeah. Yeah.
conditions and
Very much.
variables that there are a lot of men who are achieved wonderful careers and etc., but don't know how to be vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where these spaces become, and
Yeah.
I'm finding it more and more sort of ask for men to be in these circles, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, which is, I think, beautiful and point taken. And of course, we've heard these anecdotes, behind closed doors. Not just social media, the internet itself is the ether where a lot of narratives are polarizing. So, which then also ends up going into a conversation about the Andrew Tate ideology of the world, right? Like
Yeah.
we
yeah,
have called it toxic masculinity, and it does push, especially a more impressionable cohort of young men into thinking that the gym body and the various markers that tell the world that I have arrived, even at the expense, I'm hearing, of happiness, of community,
Hmm.
is who I need to be. And there's a beautiful show that we've all watched, I think, this year, and it's been quite pathbreaking in terms of how much it's opened up for us, which is the show Adolescence on Netflix. And it talks about a young child, a 13-year-old boy, accused of murdering a female classmate because he is rejected by her.
Hmm.
So at that age, to have a sense of rejection, even,
Yeah.
and then to have that sense that is so powerful, because he's been bullied by everyone for it. He's been called names. He's been
Yeah.
told that he's somehow different,
Right.
and that's not a good thing anymore.
Mm.
Especially with more men coming into your circles. How do you encourage conversations around this narrative? How do we bring them back from the precipice that sometimes they may be standing on? And I think we all have friends, we all have acquaintances who have reached out to us from a lonely hotel room somewhere in the world and said, I really just need to break down right now
Yeah.
because this is where I am and I don't know what else to do.
Mm.
We have all had friends whom we've had to tell, hey, you have permission to stop now. You don't have to keep going anymore.
Hmm.
What about the men for whom these permissions may not exist organically? How do they find these communities like the ones you're creating? How do they take the first step of saying, I even want to step into a circle?
Yeah. No, because you said 100 men. That seems, it feels like those 100 should be just from my apartment complex. Like there are enough to fill the room, right? A lot of the Western world shows and conversations that we hear, people talk of, I'm going for a meeting, which is you
Yeah,
either for alcoholism or addiction or some kind of a support group or grief, and that's not really a culture we have,
correct.
right? We don't have this culture of gathering in a room because we think we have a
Yeah,
common lived experience and we'd like to support each other, right? How do you make this a movement? How do you make this larger? Because there's so much disruption that both men and women are feeling right now,
absolutely.
both sides, and we're trying to align, but the
It feels
narratives
like
are
the
keep pushing
separation
us
is, yeah,
further
yeah.
away, and then we are, it's a very
Right.
Because the fact that it was we were initially talking about me
me
versus you.
versus, yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
If the relationship is about union, why don't we talk about union?
mhm,
It's not about both people, men and women, has to come to a center point.
Mm.
You are at your point, you go to a third point. That's the whole
Mm.
idea of relationship,
Mm.
right?
mhm,
The fact that a lot of times when I listen to the Western podcast, I'm trying to draw a parallel as to how it interplay for us in
For
India.
us, yeah.
mhm,
It's different, our makeup is different, the expectations are
Yeah.
different, patriarchy, matriarchy,
Everything.
different cities, states within India. It's very beautifully
mhm,
sort of done. So the first thing is, I always get reminded that I was able to do this because when we I resonated this and reflected that when we are in a flight and when the crew cabin is doing the emergency sort of
Hmm.
briefing, they say that in case of emergency, oxygen mask will fall down. Before helping others, you put yourself.
Yeah.
mhm,
So if we have to help others or be, supportive to others, first I need to check my well-being,
Yeah.
whether I can do that. I may be very curious to jump saying that I'll help you, I'll do this and etc. But then am I ready? So
mhm,
first I need to acknowledge that what my vulnerabilities are, what my
Yeah.
space is, how much I can do, how much I can support, how much of a freedom I have to challenge the status quo or the norm, because not all of us have. I see myself a lot privileged
Mm.
mhm,
because I got all of this at a very young age. I could challenge that. No, my parents never said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
mhm,
Right? But how many of us can do that? So in order for me to invite men to that space, I have to create a space which is psychologically safe.
mhm,
When people in the room, they come a 35, 40-year old, 52-year-old and etc, and a 52-year-old man, after 4 sessions gets up towards the end of a session, removes his shirt to show the bruises on the body, saying that my wife beats me every day for last 15 years. It takes courage for him to open up.
yeah,
So when we talk about those things, we talk about, it is not about promoting on social media. It's about how the word of mouth spreads.
mhm,
A man telling another friend that I went there, when we put the photograph saying that, we are doing this. So it is not a myth. It is actually
mhm,
happening.
mhm,
And these are like no cost free, by the way,
Yeah.
right? So there is already a pressure. I don't have money.
Mm.
I have to go on a Saturday. I
mhm,
have to leave my kids. I have commitment today. So the moment I put a pressure on some other pressure, they will break away.
mhm,
So for us, it was very important that creating that space
Space.
for men to talk about, saying that, hey, this is who we are talking about it, and this is, we are creating a space. And it's been like what, 9 months, 8 9 months up until now, having over 400 men and counting, people writing to us, consulting with us, because they are not just stopping at realization of reflection,
Yeah.
but they also say, how can you help me?
Beautiful.
So we have had cases wherein men asked for legal support, counseling, couples therapy, the sexual well-being issues, about I'm not able to look at some my own wife, and we have not been able to have that relationship, strong relationship. We had to introduce. So it is not about I am only creating a circle of conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm also talking about, okay, if you are at a
What
45,
next?
48, by 2027 the reports say that AI is going to take your job. What's next for you?
Yeah.
Are you prepared? Have you saved enough? If you have not, now is the time. So we bring in financial experts to talk about it, right? So all my experts who come in, largely they are men. So a man who is there, part of the circle, is able to relate and open up to another man, saying that, okay,
Fair
you are
enough.
able to relate.
Yeah.
But in some cases, we also have women who talk about, who come with an expertise of a topic,
Of course. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we are creating that, and when I'm putting, like I said, the oxygen mask, I have to put myself
Yeah.
in the shoe of a beneficiary or an attendee, say that which are the ones that will help me go to these sessions, what will make me open up. I ask these questions, then create those conversations, talking points, what we want to do, what we don't want to do, and etc. uh, and that's where the conversation, like, what is the difference between independence and freedom? So we have those conversation. We spoke about loneliness and etc. We are constantly on the loneliness Olympics. We are like constantly running. I often say. So hence these, all of these spaces helps, and that's
Yeah.
what we are trying to create. More authentic, vulnerable leader. That is something that I'm working towards. That I practice it from a young age. If I can offer this to all men, across generation, maybe we don't have to make a pledge what I did younger days, that I will try to
You will
challenge
push back.
how I can not fit in. You don't have to do that.
Mm.
You don't have to suffer in silence. You can open up, you can talk about it, you can say. That's where the generation issues at workplace happens, because generation bold versus generation gold, which is the older generation, will always look at, I got a promotion. Typically a man would say, I got a promotion in 5 years. How can you come and ask in 6 months?
Yeah.
So it's about perceived reality versus the actual reality. And I may not ask for, say that I'm overwhelmed, or I need to take a break, my head is aching, or I have to take care of my kids, or I have a pet to take care. I will not say that, because I will be demeaning myself. The young men can,
They can. Yeah.
they can ask for it. They can say that I'm taking break. And that is something the older generations like us, the companies and family, have to acknowledge and understand, that younger men will ask for it. And we should not start discounting them. We should
Yeah.
not say that, okay, you're no good, how can you not do this? How can you get overwhelmed by doing this task? The younger generation is coming from a different mindset.
Our
That,
lens has to change.
yes, so that is what we bring back in the circles,
Yeah.
because if I have men who are early 20s, that is what they will come and ask for.
So, Nikhil, I think, something my producer loves, which is a downloadable. So, I'm going to ask you if men needed to ask themselves a few questions,
Hmm.
right, to create this oxygen mask kind of feeling, right? What is it? What starts that self awareness, or realizing that, hey, this is who I am, where I
Yeah.
am now. What? How do I work with this?
I think partially I will sort of not answer that question, but I will also answer the question. And where I'm coming from is, I'll give you an example of lakes, right? Like in
Yeah, yeah,
Bangalore,
yeah.
you'll say, oh, there used to be a lake here. Now
Hmm.
the lake is gone.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit of that kind of a problem to begin with, right?
Hmm.
What I'm saying when I say that is, the lake by itself will not be able to restore itself.
Hmm.
But when people organize themselves and say, hey, this should not be happening in this lake, There used to be freshwater fish here. We need to now do something. And I say that the lakes are the men. And so there is a part to be played from the outside as well, that society has got to look at it and say that I think we should be okay to let them be, right? Because partially it, I think, earlier we were saying that was it like that in the earlier generations or
Yeah.
not? Is it more visible now? I think my hypothesis is that probably social media makes it more visible now, right? So it's like saying, was there more violence earlier or not? Because it didn't get reported in the press, or
Yeah.
there weren't that many reporters, or there weren't these many Twitter handles.
Yeah.
So I think today probably the quantum of information is given weightage that therefore it must be a problem. But I think these are themes which, growing up seeing uncles and everyone, this is something that has been there. But I think at that time it would have been seen as, this is such an awkward person, they don't
Misfit.
they don't get things, right? Aren't they aware that this is very socially awkward, behavior? But I think that is a struggle that they have been going through all the time. It's just that they didn't have a way to protest, right? So in a sense, it's a new platform available to protest, voice, air that, hey, look, I also have some challenges, and
Yeah. Yeah.
don't presume that the way you perceive me means that I'm kind of, there's no chink in my armor, right? So one aspect is that others also have to sort of look at it and say, oh, uh, we've never sort of checked with you that,
Are you okay?
yeah, are you okay, right? Or so many things must be going on right now. So what is that like, to be experiencing so many changes? And
Yeah.
I heard they were speaking about AI, does that affect you in some
Yeah.
way? Or
Yeah.
you've just moved cities, right? It can. So I think the noticing has to become a little bit more from people around
Yeah.
them, right? That if you're not noticing, then it's not that it is not there,
Yeah.
but because you didn't notice, if we used to play this silly game in school buses, and at that time Maruti cars were new, so we would play this game
Notice
called
multiple.
Maruti, right? Every day there were Marutis, but that day we would say, you are on the right side, I'm on the left side, and before we reach home, how many people shout out Maruti, that person wins. But every other day there was a Maruti, right? So if we cultivate a quality of noticing, and when I say quality of noticing, and as in uh, just pausing and checking, acha,
Yeah.
there's a subtle thing like the manner in which the bag was kept down. When my son comes home, the manner in which the doorbell rings, we know,
So true.
right? Or there's
Yeah.
like a different kind of a thudding. We have a metal safety door, so we know, is it washroom jana hai, or is it that he really does not want to stand, and there's been a lot of PT or sports or dance practice. But if noticing is not happening, then what he was saying has to happen is that now men have to take account for themselves. And I've worked with women's groups as well, that jading off, burning off happens when there's too much of others focus. And it happens to women, right? In different flavors. It happens to men in totally different flavors. So often self orientation is absent because it is associated with, it's not good to be selfish.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And selfish is, I would say, a very other end of the spectrum, extreme. But you can be healthy selfish, right? You can say that, look, I really don't want to meet you today because there's been a lot of things going on at work. I just want to sit at home and do nothing. Arey, if you're doing nothing, then why can't you come and meet me? Right? But if you're able to say that, no, I think I'll just stay back home, right? So how do you sort of bring that focus back on my needs? So, and my needs can change every day. Today my need might be that I really need to go and do those performance evaluations, and or do a sales pitch. Another day my need might be, it's really been a tough week, let me just log in at 12, or let me just sleep 3-4 hours extra. I'll not wake up at 6 a.m, I'll wake up at 9 a.m. So I think, if so, that's then from the individual's point of view, right? But then there is also the whole, it's like a fish doesn't know what is water, right? So the interrelationality also has to be looked at, because when we say that men are having these challenges, but that's not like a isolated thing that's happening somewhere, because then surrounding them are groups, surrounding them are teams,
Yeah.
surrounding them are families.
Yeah.
And so now, how does the dynamic of this interrelationality change, right? So then it gets back to, are we having those conversations that, like my son will sometimes ask me, okay, now you're at home these many days, is there some work trip coming? So I have to tell him that when I'm here also I'm
I'm
working,
working.
right? So
Yeah.
but that interrelationality and that openness to not worry about, array, let them be, or if I probe this way, how will it sound, right? You can be gentle and delicate in terms of being probing also, but it won't happen if we don't notice it, right? So noticing has to happen for men, that I'm not finding myself to be enjoying this job that I'm doing, right? If that noticing is not happening, then 5 years later you'll wonder, why didn't I leave 5 years ago, right? Which means, like he said earlier, there were some markers possibly that were there, but because we didn't notice, they got ignored. And so now it's when the accident has happened that we realize that the brakes failed, or I want to kind of spend this time in solitude, is recognizing, I think now 3-4 days have gone, or 3-4 months have gone, I've not done something like this for myself. Now I
Now
will
I
go
need
do
to.
it.
Yeah.
So when that is happening, then it's like we are starting to rely better on those signals and indicators, which are very instinctual actually. The other important thing in this is, this has got nothing to do with logic and intelligence at all, because often we can be very metric and calculation and formula oriented, that how do you know this no, I just don't feel good. I don't care about whether you feel good or not, you come and do it. But I don't feel good could really mean I've not had great sleep. I'm not going to be able to perform there. That's why sports is a nice analogy, right? If I twist my ankle, they'll say, yeah, sit out, you'll not be
Yeah.
able to perform well. So if for the purpose for which I'm required to perform, if I can really understand I'm not in good shape to perform right now, people should be allowed to take that individual call.
Yeah.
And I think once surroundings, the environment, society, organizations be okay with that, because at the end of it, it is a dance of multiplied and kind of joined up outcomes. Organization wants this by the end of the quarter, and they are saying, well, there is a 10 people team, and how can 2 people start saying that we are not feeling okay? But if you really look at it as, only if everyone feels okay, then all these outcomes and everything will happen. So let's trust a little bit more in terms of the judgment calls people are taking for themselves.
No,
And if
that's really
we
fair.
don't allow that, then we can, it's like
In fact,
trying
maybe
to,
we've never even allowed for the consideration of that. It's
we never
not a.
allowed.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, I would hope that conversations like this are nudging more and more folks, whether it is a circle conversation or you as a coach, one-on-one conversations, and enabling others.
Yes.
Essentially, I think both of you in your own way are enabling so many others to go forth and, like he said, be mindful, right, and help others have conversations, or help others check in on others, help others have conversation, and hopefully that itself is a
Because
movement.
if you look at men, we don't ask for help
Definitely.
because we think that everything is well with us.
Yeah.
So the first, to what Nikhil mentioned, the first thing is that helping them that
It's okay.
where you are. So in our circle, through the registration form, it's also very reflective. Helps the individual to understand, because they've never been asked.
Yeah.
The only place that the men would typically end up doing is leadership training at office, or I've been told to do manager training,
That's such a
and
narrow
that
lens
is that is
now that
very
we.
work specific. But
Hmm.
when I see myself as who I am as a man, not with roles, what do I need? So you have those, what you mentioned about, there are cues which will help you to understand that what do I actually need. And these are little nudges. Why? Because men were not told of these nudges. Men were not given that script. Men were told 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do it.
These are your roles and go
Do it. Now, in between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what do you want to do it? Nobody asked. My father did not ask. My grandfather did not ask. My wife is not asking. My son is not asking. My kids are not asking. My manager. So, who's going to ask? So, we said that we will be that person who will nudge you to reflect and ask yourself as to what you are looking for. Maybe you have everything fine. That's also realization that, yeah, actually, I was feeling whatever. That means I'm perfectly fine.
That's true.
Yeah,
That
it's
is
an
true.
But
Yeah.
if I need something, maybe through this filling up the form, I realize that I need something. When I go attend these conversations, I realize or get the endorsement that, yes, I actually need a help like this.
Yeah.
When I take an expert opinion or support or professional help, they say, oh, thank God I understood that I needed this thing. So that's a realization process that we go through in helping men that, okay, you will go through these self realization, introspection. So we have a very clear model: pause, reflect, listen, share, journal.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
So all these circles will focus on these, right? So there are some which are fun, there are some which is introspective, there are some with reflective, there are some which is doing a mind mapping, there are some which is meditative. We have all those different formats, right? Because you would know and create space that what works for me should also work. So it becomes very personalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're sharing the space with other men, you know that, okay, I need to give him space because I can relate to him. That is what it is. And there's somewhere I had read, and this is what in the circles that I also practice, TCS model.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Tata Consultancy Services. The TCS model, because if you're building the friendship or the bond, T stands for text weekly,
Mm-hmm.
C is call monthly, S is see quarterly. So to the men, that because if you're after 40 you forget. There is a study which says that 30 years back, a man had an average 16 friends. Today, it's one.
Wow.
Wow.
So the whole conversation about loneliness, the epidemic, and etc. is happening because of that. And with one, you would go and talk. Chal na yaar, it's okay. Chal, let's have a drink. You shut off.
It's actually to forget everything
Yes.
else.
Yeah.
The men would go, you're going with a family to a shopping mall and etc. How many men would pause and want to buy something for themselves? Nahi, nahi, yaar, let me not buy. बच्चों के लिए दिला देते हैं. For the wife, I can buy this next time, next time, next time, next time. There is no next time because life is so unpredictable, and the highest number of suicide cases are men. 75%, three-fourth. You know, so imagine, and the life expectancy of men is lower than women. So there is something which is very, very grave that, if we are not going to be able to protect men today, the population of men would reduce. And we are talking about cohabitation, procreation, then what? Today it may sound very superficial. 40 years, 50 years later, what are you going to do if your men are dying young, 30s, 40s?
Yeah.
What do you do then? So
And
this is the whole idea of the conversation there, saying that if I can take care, only if I can take care of myself, can I
Can I
model
then?
it to my kids
Yeah.
and my kids, youngsters around me or in my team, saying that it's okay. Goodwill Hunting is a fantastic movie. Rob, he goes and hugs him and says that it's okay, it's not your fault. He says this multiple times and then he breaks down. Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
Right, so you have to create the space for men to say that it's okay, chalta hai, you don't have to be on all the time, pause, it's fine. But then giving that men that space, saying that, on our WhatsApp groups we have for different circles, city wise, every week I put in a message saying that, hey guys, are you all okay? Is something I am available 247, you want to talk, I'm here, you can call me. Just knowing that there is a somebody there matters a lot for a man. For women, like you were saying, right, we'll go and share emotion.
Yeah,
Oh, this
it's a
happened, that
little
happened, and
easier,
etc.
yeah.
Men don't. You have to be told.
Please
You have
think
to be
about
told.
this.
We are like that manual book. You have to set up the IKEA, or step 1, step 2, step 3. This is how men perform. So you have to tell that, it's okay if you're not doing this step, do this. That's how we are conditioned.
Fair enough, which is also where the acronyms are so interesting. And there's a process now, right? It's
Yeah.
no longer an abstract thing where you have to sit with someone and talk about your feelings for 2 hours. There's an actual
Yeah, there's a
process
flow. Yeah.
that which makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah.
I think the part on support is really important
Yeah.
because the moment it's like that, right? Like if you look at today's cricketers, they have all this protective
Oh,
equipment
yeah.
on, right? So many times Sunil Gavaskar says that
We didn't have any of
I
that.
did. So they ask him, you didn't wear a helmet, but you got hit only once. So he says yes, because there is no protection, right?
Huh.
So you have to be really that alert
Yeah.
that you're not going to be hit.
Mm.
So I think it gives you a different kind of a confidence. It gives you a different kind of freedom in thinking that okay, back is covered, right? It's a little bit like a SWAT
Yeah.
team, right? So, and that happens, like, you know, so many times when I travel, then my wife will say, oh, don't worry about anything, you know, everything is fine, you know, just go and do what you need to do, right? A couple of times when I've been to Bangalore, this partner, now my partner is a woman, so you know, she'll say, okay, you know, you're 8 a.m. you're starting a meeting, and then 6 p.m. also you're meeting someone. It's okay, you don't do meetings the whole day, right? But just I, I'm like thinking, okay, you know, I want to just maximize the time that's available. But it's nice to know that somebody's thinking it's okay if you don't maximize your time,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, then it leaves you with room to think a little bit differently. Then you
Yeah.
can say, acha, theek hai, there, that means there is some leeway. And when there is leeway, then there is room for some well-being. You
Yeah.
know, okay, chalo, you know, meeting got cancelled. Let's just have a nice
Yeah.
small blueberry cheesecake,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or something like that, right? Or just a stroll.
Yeah.
But I think those, like he said, you know, the shopping gets postponed, and you know, but simple things like I always go to Church Street. Blossoms is my favorite, right? It could be a silly bag that says, you know, I'm buying books till I get broke, something like that. But it's the small things that you do for yourself
Mm.
that are very important, right? And a lot of times what happens is that if we use this word achievement, then they'll be like, okay, you know, I think when MD happened, and I think that time when I first bought a Mercedes Benz car, but you could probably count those on your fingers
Yeah.
if you
Mm-hmm.
count an entire lifetime. But every day in between something is happening, which is an opportunity missed, right? And so every day, if there is some, like I like to chat with cab drivers. Hey, how is your day going? Is it very cold? And
Yeah.
but just having that vibe of there is a conversation happening, I want to do this for myself. If those kind of avenues are paid attention to, noticed, and tapped, then again it releases that whole burden that I'm just waiting for that, you know,
Yeah.
December last week to come, because I've just been running and overheating myself for the last 6 months. But it doesn't need to be that way.
Mm.
A lot of times when I ask people, and especially coaching male leaders, how many leaves do you end up using? Oh, no, no, my leaves always carry you. And it's said as if, like, you know,
It's a
it's
badge
some
of honor
medal,
almost. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, I never had any leave carryovers. So I would make sure leaves got used up, because that's what is going to make you feel way more productive when you come back. It's an interesting thing which one financial advisor had told me once when I just started investing. And so I said, oh, you know, how do we increase this? He said, sir, you are earning money from your job. That's what will give money into this. These investments will grow the way they will. You please just do well in your job. For money to grow, that has to happen, right? So in a sense, for us to perform the multiple roles we perform, like he said, you know, take care of your own oxygen mask. So we have to fill ourselves with that some way. Otherwise, you're an undernourished kind of, you know, elite
Yeah.
performer.
Yeah.
You're not going to perform for a very
Yeah.
long time.
Makes sense.
We
Yes.
really have to find time for that.
Yes.
And then conversations with others, whether it's check ins or creating a space, allowing someone else to just feel like, you know, they're being listened to, or they have
Correct.
the room to say what they want to say. I think in today's kind of complex world,
I
it's
think we are
just,
saying a lot. The
yeah.
avenues to say a lot do exist, but I don't think we are listening
Huh,
enough
huh.
at all.
Maybe, yeah.
I think as a society we need to listen, but as individuals we need to listen to ourselves.
Ourselves as
Yeah,
well.
telling
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
Because it's so easy to tune out, to numb, to
Correct.
I'll give you a very
self-medicate.
simple example, right? Like you use the word complex, and the moment I keep saying, hey, you know, terrible traffic in Bangalore.
I'll give one word to this: articulation.
Mm-hmm.
Men needs to be articulated. I again always say the privilege. I can speak English fluently. My articulation is different to the audience who can understand English. What about others who don't understand? Because for me, men are across,
Yeah.
those
Hmm.
the spectrum.
Yeah.
Who so somebody may not understand that what this masculinity means. You have to break it down.
Yeah.
So articulation is extremely important to the help that you seek or what you want to do,
Yeah.
and etc. And that's where I have seen the amount of effort we put in in articulation, like in the social media, what is your TG looking for? Put it up on social media. So this is your TG. So if your TG is men across the different cities and spectrum, education, not educated, Hindi speaking vernacular,
Rural,
how are
urban.
you articulating that we are there for you? Are we saying it in words or articulating in sign or in body language? Right? Articulating, because people are auditory, people are kinesthetic, people are visual. How are we articulating? Right? The more we are able to articulate, to the door example that he gave, slamming the door, ringing the bell, it's all articulation. How
It's
much we are
messaging.
what
Yeah.
messages you are
Are you
picking
picking
up.
up that message or
Yeah.
not? Yeah, that's the.
No, I think really, I think we could go on all day, and
And
Of
so
course.
much to
and I
learn,
feel
I
like
think,
there's
this,
a part two where we get to we get to express our side a little bit and
Of
what
course,
we
we
are
can do
saying.
role reversal as well. Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
We were when we were doing our research and we were thinking about this topic, a lot of it was, men need to be taught to do this. And I'm like, who taught us? Nobody taught us, right? We also went through our struggle. So I think it's like I said, it is a very, very kind of complex world today, definitely because of social media exposure, information,
Yeah.
multiple generations, all of that.
Yeah.
And it does feel like a good starting point is conversation with self, with others, and just looking out, being mindful. So thank you for the work that the two of you do to
No, absolutely.
further that. I
Thank
think
you.
it impacts a lot of lives,
Yeah.
and so thank you for that. Is there anything that you'd like to share with our watchers and listeners? Anything that you recently, caught your attention? It could be a book, it could be a play, it could be an OTT series that you'd like to
There
just.
is one which is new, which is Single Dad,
Okay, I haven't seen
Right.
that.
I've seen.
Kunal
Yeah.
Khemu's.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a fantastic narrative. Like, you step back and how he's like very joyful, playful, and cares less about anything and has to depend on parents for pocket money, gets married and goes to the divorce, and then realizes he has to adopt a kid. He wants to be a single dad.
Oh.
So that's something which is very recent, very very interesting piece that
Okay.
that I think that I've heard from my friends that I want to watch something.
Okay. Nice. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Yeah.
I think I had done a very interesting experiment during COVID because there was that kind of a time. Irfan Khan had just passed away, and so a journalist called Shubhra Gupta has written a book on him,
Okay.
which is I can't remember the name of the title, but it says Irfan, the man, the actor, something like that. Shubhra Gupta is the author. The what she's done is interviewed people who worked with him, and so there's perspectives of how they saw him behind the scenes. So the experiment I did was, okay, one chapter is, let's say, some director, and then I read that interview, then I went and watched that movie. Then I read another co-actors. Tilotama Shom spoke about, I think there's this movie in which he's reminiscing what has happened during partition, and so he sees ghosts of people that have died. So whenever he's speaking with someone, he can't look at them and speak. So he has a tendency, he'll look here or there, but he's speaking to you because he's imagining that, my God, all of those people are coming along. It was an interesting experiment because a lot of the roles that he played kind of bring out the soul of what a usual man would go through. Ashok Ganguly in Namesake is another example,
That's a,
which is so. In my recommendation would be, read that book, finish one chapter, go and watch that movie.
Beautiful.
Took about 2 months,
Yeah.
but it's a like if I look at that story of Ashok Ganguly, and I recently watched it again. So it's a man who gets introduced when he's come to see the bride. It's an arranged marriage. Then he goes off to the US because he's been working there. Then he provides for his family. There are children. His son hates him because he's been given Gogol. That's his favorite
name.
author,
Yeah.
right? Then he goes away somewhere because he has to earn more, so he
Correct.
stays away, and then he dies. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you look at it, then that's pretty much the cycle of how things go.
Yeah.
But it's the sort of small ordinariness and the vulnerability that is shown in a very nicely sensitive way. Meera Nair has done a nice job
Yeah,
of
namesake
with
is
that
a
movie.
nice.
And then the other one is of course Lunchbox, which is again a little bit on loneliness, but it's how for a older person who's now about to retire, what does it mean to have a very different kind of an interaction with a lady he's not met, but it's just through that tiffin box. And I remember, all of us love Hera Fairy as a funny film, but there's a very nice statement that Paresh Rawal's character says in between, where they're trying to convince him that this is a good idea, we'll get so much money. And what gets him convinced is he says, one day I want to sit outside in the house in my veranda with the chair, drink all the way, knowing that all the debt I got from my father is cleared. Which is the sort of soul of the chaos that is going on, right? Am I doing this? Am I having this? But it's that kind of internal struggle is kind of encapsulated in that small statement, that if only one day this happens, then I
Everything is
think I'll
okay.
be free.
Yeah.
So I think that would be an interesting experiment if people want to go and
Nice,
try
nice.
out what I've
Beautiful.
And
recommended.
yeah, I think a lot of our recommendations, we realize that today you can really immerse yourself. You listen, you read somebody's book, then you watch the movie, then you listen to the author on a podcast. It's
Yeah.
a very nice
Yeah.
kind of 360-degree
Correct.
immersion. Great. Thank you for those recommendations, and thank you for your time today, and for sharing
Pleasure.
what you do and what I think a lot of men would be. It would be good to listen to and just.
Yes.
To reflect on what maybe slight changes they want to make, or maybe they're just okay.
Yeah. Pleasure to be here.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
for
having us here.
yeah,
Thank you. Pleasure
thanks.
being here.